As 2019 was unfolding, I figured out finally that I could retire, that I was able to do that. And so then I was questioning, okay, what does that look like? COVID came along shortly after I retired, which kind of upended things. I was playing a bunch of golf and biking a bunch because that's what you could do during COVID, but I was really unfulfilled. I need more meaningful contribution, more engagement. God opened some doors there. I was able to onboard more with World Relief, which is where I'd already been volunteering. The ship got righted and it was going along pretty well. We saw this real crisis coming to Sacramento with all these Afghans overwhelming the resources that we had in place, that the city had in place and God had put in place. Out of that came NorCal Refuge, a minister to Afghan families that have kind of fallen in the cracks, that just haven't been served completely by the agencies. That's been really fulfilling. And that really came out of my relationship with Barnabas. As 2022 was rolling along, got engaged with a pastor and missionary in the Congo through my son, who was executive director of this nonprofit, Energy for Mission. Started volunteering also through them. My son left that organization. I was talking to the founder about, do you have somebody in mind for this position? I had been kind of wanting to get more back into using some of my administration skills and things that I had developed in my career with HP. And that all came together, and now I'm the executive director for Energy for Mission. And so we work with the most vulnerable to help them transform their lives. So probably one of the real themes for me is a focus on the vulnerable, from World Relief to NorCal Refuge to Energy for Mission. Barnabas was just a really formative part of this journey in the different twists and turns that have happened. I've always been super interested in the intersection between God's kingdom and the business world. And I think there's all these Christians in the business world that have a lot more to give than just being an usher or being a Sunday school teacher at church. And those jobs are great, those roles are great, but there's a lot of us that have a lot of other skill sets that we would, I think, like to use for the kingdom. But historically, we've not known how to do that. And Barnabas is just a great vehicle by which people can say, oh, you need some marketing help? This little nonprofit over here, you need some marketing help? I know about marketing, or I know about real estate, or I know about operations. And so I think that's just the power of Barnabas. I want to stay open for what God has for me. As I've retired, I've sort of adopted this philosophy to say yes whenever possible. Whenever, if I've got that tug at all, and if I've got some margin in my schedule, then let's see what unfolds. I think those of us as Christians, we're called to a life that isn't devoid of fun things and all of that, but that includes meaningful contribution to the kingdom. And when you get into the spot where you're really in the zone, where you're using your gifts and the skills and the passions that God's given you to advance God's kingdom, that is just the sweet spot of life.